Darkness. Heavy, suffocating darkness pressed down on me. I tried to move, to open my eyes, but my limbs were leaden, my eyelids sealed shut. Panic swelled in my chest, a monstrous wave threatening to drown me. I was awake, but my body refused to obey. I was trapped. The air hung thick and cold, a palpable presence in the room. A faint metallic tang lingered on my tongue like the taste of old blood. My heart hammered against my ribs, a frantic drumbeat in the silence. Each desperate breath I struggled to take echoed loudly in my ears, amplifying the terrifying reality of my situation. I was caught in the suffocating grip of sleep paralysis, a familiar nightmare come to life. This time, however, something felt different, more sinister. The air itself crackled with an unseen energy, a palpable sense of dread that sent shivers crawling down my spine. Slowly, agonizingly, I managed to pry open my eyes. My vision blurred, the familiar shapes of my bedroom swimming in and out of focus. The faint glow of the streetlight outside cast long, distorted shadows across the walls, transforming everyday objects into menacing figures. And then I saw it. In the far corner, barely discernible against the darkness, a shadow shifted. It was a tall, gaunt silhouette, humanoid in form but devoid of any distinguishable features. It seemed to pulsate with a life of its own, its edges rippling and distorting like a flame in a draft. Terror, cold and sharp as ice, pierced through the fog of my fear. My breath hitched in my throat, my chest constricting with a primal fear I had never known. My eyes remained fixed on the shadow, unable to tear my gaze away even as every instinct screamed at me to close my eyes, to pretend I hadn't seen it. The figure remained motionless, a chilling sentinel in the darkness. Yet, I could feel its presence, a palpable weight pressing down on me, stealing the air from my lungs. It was as if the very essence of fear had taken form, a tangible manifestation of my deepest nightmares. A low, guttural sound emanated from the corner, barely audible yet sending a fresh wave of terror crashing over me. It wasn't a growl, not a whisper, but something far more unsettling. A sound that seemed to bypass my ears and resonate directly in my skull. The metallic tang in my mouth intensified, now tinged with a bitter, acrid taste. The air grew colder, the room seeming to contract around me, the shadowy figure the only point of focus in my shrinking world. I was a prisoner in my own body, helpless, vulnerable, utterly at the mercy of whatever that thing in the corner was. The guttural sound came again, closer this time, accompanied by a rasping whisper that sent chills down my spine. It spoke my name. The voice was a low, sibilant hiss, devoid of warmth or humanity. It slithered around my mind, burrowing deep into my consciousness, planting seeds of fear and despair. It was a voice that seemed to emanate from some dark, primordial abyss, a whisper from the void. My heart pounded against my ribs, a frantic rhythm against the silence of the room. The whispers continued, fragmented words and phrases that made no sense, yet seemed to claw at the edges of my sanity. I wanted to scream, to cry out for help, but my voice was trapped, a prisoner along with the rest of me. Section 5. Struggling against the bonds. Desperation surged through me, lending strength to my numb limbs. I thrashed against the invisible bonds, my silent struggle only serving to heighten the feeling of helplessness that washed over me. Every muscle screamed in protest, but it was no use. I was caught fast, a fly in a spider's web. The whispers grew louder, more insistent, weaving a tapestry of fear and madness around me. The figure in the corner remained still, its presence a suffocating weight on my chest. It was as if it fed on my terror, drawing sustenance from my every panicked heartbeat. I squeezed my eyes shut, a futile attempt to shut out the horrors that besieged me, but the darkness offered no escape. The whispers followed me into the blackness, echoing in the hollow recesses of my mind, promising oblivion, promising pain. A cold, fetid breath washed over me, sending a fresh wave of terror through my paralyzed body. I forced my eyes open, my gaze met by the looming shadow of the figure. It had moved, silently gliding closer, its form still indistinct, yet somehow even more menacing at close range. The faint glow from the streetlight glinted off something held in the figure's hand. It was a blade, long and curved, its surface catching the light and reflecting it back as a sliver of cold, hard steel. The whispers ceased, replaced by a silence more terrifying than any sound. The figure leaned in close, its unseen face inches from mine. I could smell the stench of decay, feel the icy breath on my skin. The blade lowered, its tip hovering just above my chest, a cold premonition of pain. In that moment of ultimate terror, as the sharp edge of the blade seemed to pierce through my skin, a sound penetrated the fog of fear. It was a faint sound, almost imperceptible over the frantic thunder of my own heartbeat. A rhythmic beeping. My alarm clock. The sound registered in my consciousness, cutting through the terror like a lifeline thrown to a drowning man. The beeping grew louder, more insistent, pulling me back from the precipice of madness. With a Herculean effort, I forced my eyelids open. The shadowy figure was gone. The blade vanished. The room was bathed in the pale light of dawn, the shadows retreating before the rising sun. My body, still heavy with the remnants of sleep, was nonetheless free. Trembling, I sat up in bed, my heart still pounding a frantic tattoo against my ribs. The events of the night played through my mind, vivid and horrifying, impossible to dismiss as just a bad dream. My gaze fell on the bedside table, drawn to the source of the sound that had pulled me back from the brink. The alarm clock blinked at me, its digital display showing the time 6 a.m., but something wasn't right. There, on the alarm clock, resting beside the snooze button, was a single long black feather. A cold wave of dread washed over me, the feather a chilling reminder of the nightmare that had just transpired. It was a tangible piece of the terror, proof that what I had experienced was all too real. I picked up the feather, its texture strangely soft and yet disturbingly cold to the touch. As I held it, a thought, terrifying in its implications, struck me with the force of a physical blow. What if it hadn't been a dream at all? The image of the shadowy figure, the glint of the blade, the whispers that seemed to echo in the silence of the room, they all came flooding back, more vivid and terrifying than ever. And then, I saw it. Reflected in the shiny surface of the alarm clock, a dark shape materialized behind me, tall, gaunt, holding a familiar-looking blade. It wasn't a nightmare, it was real, and it wasn't over.